Hey, friends! The Spice Chicks. Remember them? A British girl group who sang and danced and preached girl power. Not the toxic, man-hating kind we have today, but the real thing about girls believing in themselves and that kind of thing. They were kind of like the Village People. You know, one of those was a cop, one was a construction worker, a biker, an Indian chief, and so on. Well, the Spice Chicks did the same thing. Each one of them had a shtick. So there's red hair dye Spice, Barbie doll Spice, Jock Spice, Token Spice, and Bangable Spice. Together, they were the Spice Girls, and they made a movie. Only one. That we're looking at this time. That's right, 1997's Spice World. Now, this was recommended to me by one of my viewers, Timothy, who asked me to tackle this one. See here? He says he owes me. Oh yes, Timothy. Yes, you do. So, I tracked down a copy of this thing here. Never having seen it before. It's not on Amazon Prime, and the DVD is out of print, of course, since the Spice Girls have had their day and are old hat now. Turns out I got the full screen edition. I'm sure there's a widescreen version of this disc. You remember when they did that? They made both versions? Well, I wound up with a full screen one, but it doesn't really matter in the case of this movie. But this is interesting. Look at this. See that? It lists being full screen as if it were some kind of bonus feature or something. Oh, the 90s. Now, to Timothy's credit, he did indeed warn me that this was one of the worst movies ever made. So let's take a look, shall we? Our story goes like this. The Spice Chicks are preparing for a worldwide concert to be broadcast from Albert Hall, essentially Britain's version of Carnegie Hall. But wacky problems are the order of the day as they run around in this tricked-out double-decker bus, going from appearance to appearance before the show. Their uptight manager and his assistant are potentially romantic partners. One of their friends is about to have a baby. There's this duo trying to convince the manager to make a Spice Chicks movie. A documentary crew is tagging along trying to make a documentary about the Spice Chicks. And this evil guy who runs a tabloid is trying to destroy the reputation of the Spice Girls to help sell papers. Along the way, the Spice Chicks perform several numbers and have wacky adventures in a desperate attempt to emulate the style of A Hard Day's Night, the first film starring the Beatles. Well, unlike the Beatles, I don't know that they actually play any instruments. You never see them doing that in the movie. They just sing and dance around, so I always figured the Spice Chicks were fake. Sort of a construct, of which several came along in the 1990s. A group built by a marketing company. Kind of like the Monkees, who were a band created solely to cash in on the success of the Beatles. But it turned out the Monkees were actually pretty good, and they were able to turn the thing into a real band. But no. Turns out the Spice Chicks were a real group that just became the Spice Girls later. So no, they weren't artificial. Well, not completely anyway. This thing is very British, celebrating the nation's entertainment industry and its personalities. So in our cast, we have the Spice Girls, of course, and there are several cameos in this thing by British stars. Probably the best part is Roger Moore sending up his own super spy persona as a Blofeld-type producer for the Spice Girls. Both Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie appear, although not together. Bob Hoskins crops up. Jennifer Saunders from Absolutely Fabulous is seen, basically in character, from that show. I also spotted Richard Briers, who starred in several British TV comedies. Meatloaf plays their driver. George Wendt is one of the movie producers. Bob Geldof, Elvis Costello, and Elton John all cameo. No doubt you may spot others in here. So, is this thing any good? Well, I've seen worse things with these eyes. Oh, God, that's the sort of thing that can make you hurl and crap your pants at the same time. Ugh. Sorry about that. No surprise, this thing was a flop, at least critically. It did make twice its money back, though, since the Spice Girls were a global phenomenon with a huge teenage fan base. So that isn't surprising either. According to the Spice Girls themselves, they chalked up the bad reviews to the fact that between concerts, personal appearances, and recording dates, they only had 2 months to make the thing, so it was very rushed. 10 months after this came out, Red Hair Dye Spice actually quit the group. She later says there were like 10 reasons why she quit, but the failure of Spice World was not one of them. The group reuniting for a tour in 2007. Not really knowing anything about the Spice Chicks, what did I think? Well, there are some good things here. Not many, but there are some. The banter and interplay between the chicks is really good. It's organic, not artificial or forced. In that respect, they did somewhat achieve the vibe from A Hard Day's Night. Some of the humor lands effectively enough. I thought the picture was photographed well, fairly well directed. It moves along at a fair pace, and it doesn't really drag much. The movie is innocuous and not really offensive or anything, unless you hate their singing. Well, I guess I'd give this movie 2 paws. If I could put those paws where I wanted. No. I'd say this is more like a paw and a half. I mean, they're trying, and there are worse things to try and emulate than A Hard Day's Night. And your mileage will vary depending on whether or not you were into the Spice Chicks and their music. So yeah, a paw and a half. Give me what I want, what I really, really want. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, Spice Chicks. Oh, I don't know.